welcome along to another episode of this FM21 story, The Head Coach with me, Daniel. It's part 119 today, and you might say we're back at a bit of an inopportune time, or a strange time, with Glasgow Rangers. If you don't know what we're doing here, of course you need to check out the last episode in the eye above. But it might well be changing very quickly, because as you can see from the title, as you can see from that little question mark badge on the thumbnail, we've got a job offer today. But what will it do to our time at Rangers? We'll find out that a little later on. If you're looking forward to it and you are enjoying the series, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video and subscribe down below for daily FM21 content. The first problem we've got is an injury crisis at Rangers. We have got a few updates from there off the pitch, and then we'll go and take a look at the slight spanner in the works, or maybe a blessing in disguise, in the middle of today's episode. A massive thank you to everyone for your support as always. As this comes out, we'll be live streaming on Twitch in about an hour's time, watching the Czech Republic versus Denmark in the quarter-final of the Euros. Of course, we'll be talking plenty about the England game there too. So please do give us a follow in the eye above if you haven't already, and you can check out the new food channel up there too. Lots of other playlists, but today it's all about Glasgow Rangers and another job offer late on for us in the head coach story. So let's start by having a look at the transfers. Because with Rangers, we said there was no real budget, there were financial concerns, but we had a brilliant director of football and maybe they could just do something special. And so far, something special is what they appear to be doing. There are other problems, we'll come to those in a minute, but let's start by looking at the transfers. Potentially, two players coming in. One is a youngster who won't touch the first team in Jack Clyde, but another, a centre-half worth 1.5 million in Brian Palacios. Now, I don't think he's great. He's certainly not the perfect signing we'd be looking for, nor a priority position. With the problems we're having with injury at the back, I can kind of understand it. You can see here, we've got now 3.7 million remaining on the transfer budget. So let's see what's caused that. If we go to our transfer history, it's not anything on there. Now, Jack Harrison did leave on a free. He was on about 40, 50 grand a week. I think about 40. So that saved a massive amount of money for us. There are a couple of others potentially going out, and a couple of youngsters that went for decent sums, particularly Billy Adams, 400 grand initially to Hearts, and I'm sure he'll be alright. He's a good player, just not got the attributes for a winger, which is what he suggests he is. Two players have come in to replace them so far. The first is David Smith from St. Louis Lions. Now, he's a young player who's probably not going to cut it, so I'm not too worried about him. Probably sit in the reserves and then at some point get sold on. However, João Batista for 925 grand from AC Milan is a Portuguese under-21 international with bags of talent. Got a driven personality, something we desperately needed in this squad, a bit of professionalism, a bit of determination to really succeed. He's not on the biggest wage, which is massive for us. He's worth nearly 3 times what we paid for him already, and is natural as a centre mid and as a number 10 too. So in terms of João Batista, we've got one hell of a little player on our hands there. 3-star ability, 3.5 potential, first team candidate. We did lose out on a couple. We lost out on a South Korean defensive midfielder, who I'm not really sure why they were trying to sign, because if we're being brutally honest, we weren't going to play with a holding midfielder. And we also lost out on Richard Bentil, if anyone remembers him. So here's a player we had at Tottenham Hotspur in our youth team. He ended up making a couple of appearances under us. There was one season where we started without a left back. I think it might have been a Community Shield or something like that he played in. But he rejected us, ironically, for Celtic. They offered him less wages. We offered 20 grand a week, as I understand it. They offered 14.75. But they offered him a role at a club that's winning titles and playing in the Champions League. And that's something we can't offer based on our predecessor. So he's rejected us for the arch rivals. We'll make sure the fans know that ahead of the derby. But that means we're without him and our rivals have got a lot stronger. What adds to that is that if we look at the schedule, we face Celtic on the 3rd day of the SPL season. After Kilmarnock and Ross County, and most importantly, sandwiched between a crucial Europa League playoff tie. Probably a match we have to win to try and get the finances up, to get ourselves in better TV money in a better competition. And we've got former club Dundee not long after that as well. It could be one hell of an August. So Celtic at an inopportune time, Kilmarnock the first game of the season, that only 2 weeks away. And with that approaching fast, we've got problems. Medical centre problems. Murray Reid, our skipper and fullback, is out for another month to 2 months with a torn abdominal muscle. Picked up his injury almost immediately after we came in. and he's declining. It's not what we wanted from him. He's one of those few strong personalities in the squad, one of the few that haven't gone against us yet. We'll come to that a bit more in a moment. And a couple of other defensive injuries you can see there. Pulled muscles, twisted ankles. They've been out 3 or 4 weeks and it's just really hampered their pre-season. Same for small goal in midfield as well. Having said that, we did win our first friendly at Fleetwood. Not the sternest test in the world, not like the next 3 against French opposition, but it was a good win nonetheless. But that is not really any of the issues we're facing today. Because before we go and look at the job offer, I've got to show you the other thing that's a problem at Rangers. Dynamics. Because the club atmosphere is awful. The players are turning against us because we've made several players unhappy. I likened our last 2 jobs to a little bit of the Jose Mourinho effect. And this one's starting to feel it now. Because lots of the players are turning against us. And it's not just the fact that they have, the reason they've turned against us. The director of football refused to offer Morten Gertsen a new deal to reflect his ability. So the players came and moaned about that. Then we said we're not going to sell Finn Malcolm because he's a star player for us. And if we move him on, we'll be weaker. And they all turned against us for that as well. I really don't understand the process of some of these players at the moment. So I don't know what we're going to do. We can't affect contracts and staffing, so we can't really solve the last 2 unless the director of football has a change of heart. And Finn Malcolm, for as much as he's complained this summer, at no stage has he been wanted by any club because his scoring record has been poor for Rangers. So I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be stuck here and we're going to be stuck with unhappy players. Unless we can win them around with good form, good signings and something else we can do off the pitch. Because we are a better reputation manager than these players. But in unison, they seem to be causing us some troubles. With that in mind though, maybe it is a good time for a job offer. Maybe it is a good time for an alternative or for a backup to Rangers. So even though we only joined in the last episode, it is time for us to consider a job offer. And it's not just one job offer, it's 3. Now, those of you that are eagle-eyed may notice the timing, may notice what was coming up earlier this summer and understand what we're about to see. But for those who don't, here comes the surprise. We have been offered a job by Belgium, England and Italy. 3 of the clubs that were in the European Championships this summer. Belgium did not reach the final. Italy did not reach the final. England did, but they lost to Holland. We applied for that job, didn't get an offer. However, the England job by far pays the most. And with this job and Rangers, talking about realism, we'll be earning almost the same as we did at Juventus. So there it goes. We did say in the last episode, what if we ended up managing Rangers in England? We've ended up being offered Graham Potter's job, who left Italy. Gennaro Gattuso, and Belgium was Allegri, another Italian. Now, Belgium did have a little bit of an enticing factor to me, because if we go and have a look at the names there are some big ones. Not to mention the fact that there's some former ones as well. Because the star goalkeeper for Belgium is Loic Willems, who we know very, very well from our time at Tottenham. He was an absolute gem and superstar back then. There's also another centre-half that's now at Spurs, but they have got a littering of world-class players. Most importantly, 2 sublime forwards who I could play as an advanced forward and poacher and really go for it like we do as some of the other saves, like the Build a Nation. They've got right back Daniel Van Hove, who we tried to sign at Spurs. We tried to sign at Real Madrid, but unfortunately weren't able to get because our director of football didn't offer them enough money. But there are a lot of really top talented players, even Sailmakers at 33, still involved in the squad a little there. So there was temptation with Belgium, but the money is unrealistic. We weren't going to do that. So we'll reject that offer. Italy offered big money, but perhaps of the squads we're looking at, maybe the weakest side overall. Of course, there are familiar names here as well. Michele Canella was part of that Dortmund side that we applied for a job at, and is possibly, in terms of attributes, the best player in the world at the moment. Certainly got all of the attributes, as you can see. There's also Simone Scotta, a young star who we managed at Tottenham. There's also Luca Evangelista, possibly the best centre-half in the world, who we managed at Real Madrid. Claudio Icardi, a left-winger at Man City, who is elite-level talent. There's Gnotto, the striker, an elite-level striker. Maybe not the best finisher in the world, but a superstar for Bayern Munich. 2 fullbacks who are also centre-halves who are absolutely brilliant. They're a bit more experienced, they've got a bit more quality. But it is a world-class side. I mean, even Bongiorni and Shep Roma, who he managed last year at Juventus, very good players who were sort of on the fringes of that starting 11. At 33, Donnarumma still involved. At 32, Tonali, who we managed last year, as well as the likes of Bastoni and Nicolo Barella. As I'm recording this, a hero last night for Italy against Belgium. So it was possibly the only job offer that could have tempted me away from England. Not to mention that the Italian side in the current Euro 2020 in real life play an irresistible football and endearing a lot of nations to them. So it did make it harder to reject it. But the third place side in the world are no match for the sixth place side in the world because they're ours. They're England. We're an Englishman and it has to be the pinnacle of a head coach save. My worry, there's not a lot of good young players coming through in England. It's actually a little bit weaker than we'd expect. Probably the best of the new generation is Ant Folwell, who we've managed before. He was of course ours at Southampton before moving on to Man City. And Giovanni Reina, who we've managed at Tottenham before, the former Dortmund youngster at 29. Patrick Southam, another player we've had, but they're nowhere near as good as the ones that are at Italy. And we have to accept that. We're taking this job because we love the country, because it's our home nation. Not because they've got the best players in the world. Of course, Bellingham and Greenwood, now potentially in their prime, but both suffered a bit with injuries in this save, particularly Bellingham. And a lot of former Tottenham players, or players that we managed at Tottenham, the likes of Aaron Smith, who's still there. Phil Foden's now in his 30s, as is Alexander-Arnold. So I think we're actually coming into this England job at a time where there's going to be an awful lot of overhaul. A lot of these players we're going to be gradually winding down and pushing out of the England team. And then we've got to find in this under-21 team, or players that have been there in the last few years, who are going to come through and make that next step. Because basically that whole squad is over 25, and a significant chunk of it is 29 or older. We have got to think really deeply about what we're going to do next. Look, one player under 25 is a big problem moving forward for England, and we're going to have to be part of that overhaul. But that overhaul, we have decided we are going to be part of. We will still be in charge of Glasgow Rangers. It does not affect our job there, but it gives us a backup. We are now England manager, the pinnacle for an Englishman in a head coach save. It's probably a shame it didn't come at the end of our Tottenham stint after the World Cup, where we would have been at our best, probably at our most prominent as a manager. We've still had 2 good years at Real Madrid and Juventus. We take on this job after winning Serie A and coming back to Scotland to wind down club-wise, but that allows us to step up to the international plate at the very same time. They're ranked 6th in the world. They're rivals of Scotland, a nation we're managing in that have given us almost all of our success in this career so far. Still playing at Wembley, just ahead of the United States, who are ranked 7th. They must be doing pretty well. Marcus Rashford, the most capped player of all time, but I presume towards the end of his career now, if not retired. And this is the 11 that's recommended. A few players that I don't recognise there. We will go and take a look at them very quickly. But you can see also on the right of the screen a lot of hot prospects being recommended. And one of them, 23-year-old Thomas Parks, a former wonder kid of ours at Tottenham, a very good striker now. So certainly not the same level of quality as Italy, but we could do something tactically to address the little bit of a gap between us and the big boys, I guess. And maybe take England back to the elite of football. We'll see if they've won anything in this save so far as well, because that could put a little bit more pressure on us. But let's go and look at the stars of the 11 that we don't yet recognise. So of course, 3 of that front 4, Greenwood, Reina, Folwell, Phil Foden in the middle and the left side of the defence. We know all of them pretty well. Hall, the goalkeeper, I've no idea who that is. Alex Hall is a goalkeeper at Aston Villa. He's not great. He's good. He reminds me a bit of Joe Hart, attribute-wise. And 2.5 star. I mean, he's solid enough, but he's not going to set the world alight now. In the middle is Rawson, is the player I'm looking at. Derek Rawson is 22. He's that one younger player in the squad. And he's one of those few who looks like he can become absolutely elite. Sort of got the same attribute balance as that Canella from Italy. Maybe not quite so good on the technical side overall, but better mentally. Loves his flair. Perfect number 10 if we can find a role for him. But a very good midfielder nonetheless. We know Giovanni Reina. What about the right-hand side? Mamor is a player we're looking at. 26 years old from Hertha Berlin. The natural right winger. Not the best crosser of the ball. Immense physically. Really strong mentally. And a very solid player yet again. So no complaints about him. And then the only other 2 we don't understand or know very well are the right side of the defence. I presume this Ralph is the one who was at Chelsea who went to Barca, because he was top class. And he is. I mean, he's very good. He's not as good as Evangelista or the types of ones we've managed before or that were on offer at the other nations. He's a very good centre-half nonetheless. And then Simpson at right back from Manchester United. Very good player without being absolutely spectacular. Again, going back to the old style English players now. Very good mentally and physically, but technically not quite the best in the world. But regardless, a very good team. We should have no trouble in qualifying for any tournament really. And I do know that in the Nations League group, it's England v Italy. So that might be difficult. There's a couple of wonder kids down in that hot prospects chart as well. And I'm hoping we can get to the next World Cup, get to the next Euros. And maybe for that second qualifying campaign, we'll have left Rangers and we'll just be an international manager. Seems the perfect point to finish the career. I've just got to avoid a sacking before the end of the next World Cup. Amika is the wonder kid. Oh, that's a bit disappointing. A good striker, not world class though. There's a lot of work to do here. Let's go through to the rest of the expectations with England and see what they want of us. Nothing else there at the moment. But the England FA appoint us. We've got a brilliant CV. They don't regard the European Nations League as important. That gives us a little bit of time to bed in actually. So I'm pretty happy with that. If we go and have a look at the schedule of the nation. They got to the Euros final and lost to Holland. 4-2 there. Morley Lambert got the other goal. He is a centre-half who's really not world class. Playing at Lyon at the moment. It's a good side regardless. And what I'll do is I'll go and have a look through that 11. Because a lot of the older boys were in there. Bellingham, Rayner, Alexander-Arnold, James, Curtis Jones, Greenwood. Not many of the new boys. So it might be a bit of an overhaul in the squad. The 6 games against Italy, Germany and Portugal in the Nations League Division A will allow us to see if our boys are ready and capable. Have they got an opportunity to develop and become part of our team for the qualifiers and into the next World Cup? Or are we going to have to rely on the old guard for 2 more years? That's what those 6 fixtures will allow us to find out. And in 2033, we should have our World Cup qualifiers, followed by the World Cup in 2034. So I'm not sure when the qualifying fixtures will come out. I presume it's around December time normally. It is scheduled on the 15th of December and starts in March next year. So we probably won't see a huge amount from this England team until there. I will show 2 of these fixtures. I'm not sure which ones yet. Maybe just the first 2, just to give you a little bit of an indicator. Or depending on how Rangers season stacks up, where they have a quiet spell of fixtures domestically, or a spell of winnable games in the league, then that's when we'll possibly come over and manage England. But there's going to be a big squad overhaul, and we've got a job to create new heroes. If we have a look at the national pool, there are a lot of players in there. It's something we're going to have to use really vigilantly. There's players that have been given opportunities who aren't quite good enough. And if we put them in terms of reports order, there's not really a huge number of players who are ranked really, really well. Certainly not outside the squad at the moment anyway. There are some players I'm really looking forward to working with. So like Faisal Sarpong is a little hidden gem. He's a quality holding centre midfielder who alongside the likes of Rayner and alongside the likes of Rawson, a brilliant young player, could become superstars for the team moving forward. But even then, he got injured in the Euros, Rawson, and our best youngster's out for 3 months. Is he going to recover from that? Thomas Parks is someone I've worked with before. I'm going to have to go and get involved in the team. But then who are these other youngsters? These other under-25s. Omar Kane never made an appearance for his country, but ranked as one of the best players and playing for Manchester United. So there is going to be an awful lot to do here. We could even go down and look at some of these 20 and 21-year-olds and see whether they're ready for the step up. A lot of them are wonder kids. A lot of them are big Premier League sides. If they can have breakthrough seasons domestically, they could become stars for this nation. So now we move our eggs into 2 baskets. Both Glasgow Rangers and England will be in charge of for the next year or 2. And our job is to get through the Nations League without relegation. 3rd place would be lovely. And to try and get Rangers back fighting at the top of domestic football. We mentioned a bit earlier on, as we go back to Rangers to finish, that we've got Celtic to try and catch. We've got Hibs to try and catch as well, having finished 3rd the last couple of seasons. But Celtic won the league 6 years in a row. So our aim this season is to get at least 2nd ahead of Hibs. And next season to try and challenge for the title. We've got a big start against Kilmarnock, Ross County and then Celtic as well. We're going to show you the first game against Kilmarnock just to see how we get on. It has been a quiet transfer window so far. We nearly lost our goalkeeper. A bid was accepted, but they rejected the contract offer, thankfully. That's Fangero, who's still wanted. I'm a little worried he's going to go at some point in the near future. So we have got a small squad to work with for now. We've got a few injuries. We're struggling at the back. But if you're looking forward to seeing how we get on against Kilmarnock, and then of course against Celtic and in our Europa League playoff in the next episode after that, please do chuck a big thumbs up on the video. Let me know what you think of us taking the England job, surely the pinnacle of this head coach save as an English manager. As long as we don't get sacked after the next World Cup, we are going to try our best to get through 4 years. And the last 2 years, we will solely focus on England and we'll have the end of our club career. All I want to do is get Rangers back to the top of the Scottish Premiership, and then I'll leave club football for the rest of my career. Hopefully England can end with success. Can we replicate a final performance? You've seen obviously that Holland won that Euros, but also how good the Italy squad is and the Belgium squad is. It's going to be a real uphill battle. If you want to stay up to date and find out how we get on as we take our dive into international management, as well as a bit of a rebuilding job back in Scotland, hopefully it all makes sense now as to why we're stepping down or winding down in our club career and coming back to where it all began and a bit closer to home, so we don't have to travel too far for the England games. We've got 2 big jobs on our hand and I'm looking forward to them. So subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date with our progress. And of course you can catch up with all the other playlists in the eye above, including our Scotland at the Euro series, which we did just before the European Championships in real life. There's a few other playlists up there too, as well as the link to the Twitch channel where we'll be live in just over an hour's time for the Czech Republic v Denmark quarter-final. Please do give us a follow over there if you haven't already and come and join the fun this evening, as England are in action in real life of course. But thank you very much for joining us, it really is greatly appreciated as always. I hope you're looking forward to the 2 big jobs, I hope you're looking forward to the rebuild, and I'll see you next time. It's going to be a big season, but have we overstretched our ambition? Or can we handle both jobs and be a big success? We'll find out throughout the season, and I'll see you next time.